Story 1. I don't think there's a more heartbreaking feeling than knowing it's over. To think that you were once so happy together. Every time you saw or heard each other, you felt butterflies. I can't explain it, but when a relationship is ending, it almost feels as if death is imminent or something dark is in the air. I dislike that unsettling atmosphere. Story 2. Your method of communication changes. Gradually, they initiate less and less. Response times get longer. They suddenly seem busy all the time. Even if you ask if everything is okay, they just say they are busy and do not offer alternatives. If someone is interested in you, they will make the time. You can do everything in your power to meet them halfway, but it still requires them to make an effort to meet you halfway. Story 3. Constant fights occur, followed by a reluctance to resolve them due to feelings of resignation, leading to a sense that it no longer matters whether they are solved or not. Story 4. Relationships go through stages of decreased communication and reduced physical interaction, and then suddenly they can turn around. In my experience, it has always been an action that causes an end, such as an irreparable argument or relocating for work or education. Two people together, each with their own personalities and evolving states of personal growth, will naturally experience ups and downs. Story 5. In my experience, when I start viewing the Mountain Goat songs as romantic, I have had success. You would think I would learn, after some time, that relating to songs about being trapped in a mutually destructive relationship with an unstable person is a strong sign to leave. Story 6. After being married for over 30 years, relationships go through phases. At times you want your space, while other times you want to be together. Sometimes intimacy is great, while other times it falls short. When the children were younger, we faced financial stress and never had enough time. As the children grew up, we found more time and resources, but then health issues and changes like menopause began to arise. I have considered leaving at times over the years because I haven't been happy, but I wonder if I would be any happier alone. There are also times when I know I don't want to be anywhere else. Story 7. If your mind starts wandering to, it could be over after a good night's sleep and in a decent mood, it's usually a sign. Also, when problems and disagreements are recurring and unresolved for a while, that typically puts stress on relationships and can lead to their end. Story 8. When they do something that would usually upset you, and you realize you just don't care anymore. Story 9. When she keeps saying, "I love you," it feels forced and dishonest. It seems like a way to pressure you into saying it back, but you feel nothing, just empty, drained, and finished. Story 10. When you don't feel anything, unlike before, you stop forcing yourself to explain. When you try seeking peace away from your partner's negativity, you don't care at all. Story 11. You start noticing that you're not really interested in what they are saying, but you're just forcing yourself to listen. You stop wanting to have intimate moments and try not to overthink it, telling yourself it's just temporary. The frequency of arguments begins to increase. You are not making any future plans or discussing future possibilities. You notice a shift in them, as they are not asking about you as much and are focusing more on themselves. There are no holidays booked or planned. If you used to anticipate things or even their replies to your messages, now you don't really care. Story 12. When they do not actively try to spend time together or go on dates, or if you are in a long-distance relationship and they stop calling or texting daily, it indicates they are no longer putting in any effort. Story 13. When you realize that no matter what you do or how much you give up or change, they will never see your full value. Story 14. My criteria for deciding whether to remain in a relationship is simple. Can I envision a joyful future with this person exactly as they are now, or am I merely hoping they will change? If I find myself waiting for them to transform before I can be happy, I have effectively tied my future contentment to something beyond my control. This will only breed resentment on both sides. I will grow increasingly frustrated, and they will feel my pressure to change. At that point, it is time for me to move on. Once I take that step, they may or may not change, but I will have reclaimed my own happiness. Moreover, I can seek out someone with whom I can find joy just as they are. Story 15. When you don't feel a glimmer of anything positive when they are affectionate with you, but instead feel irritated, imposed upon, or sad. Story 16. My last girlfriend was excessively irritable. We moved in together too early. She got angry with me so often that I started to imagine asking random cashiers to help me when we were in public. In the end, I decided to give in to almost everything she said to avoid further suffering while I quietly began to plan my escape. If you are in an abusive relationship, leave as soon as you can safely do so. On the other hand, if your significant other stops defending themselves, they may be waiting for the right moment to separate. Story 17. A relationship is likely ending when communication fades, emotional distance grows, and spending time together feels like an obligation rather than a joy. Constant arguments, lack of intimacy, and a sense of indifference are clear signs. When trust is broken, resentment builds up, or your future goals no longer align, it may be time to let go. Story 18. For me, a significant decrease in quality time and meaningful conversations is a major concern. It is not just about quantity but the depth of connection. Story 19. Points from the last relationship. She wasn't as happy to see me. She became more argumentative and I never engaged. She became more aloof and distant. The most obvious sign was when she made me a small bowl of rice with a bit of sauce for dinner one night, while on the same day she prepared someone else at work a great lunch. What I did throughout, I stayed nonchalant, not because of who I am, but out of the understanding that no reaction is a good reaction to bad situations. I didn't chase. I intended to attract what is good for me. I acted as if nothing would faze me. I knew it was coming, and nothing else was needed. I don't know why I didn't leave first. Mentally, I might have, but not physically. When it ended, I entered a state of apathy. I felt robotic. 3 days later, I threw out all the gifts she gave me and sat with a bottle of whiskey, sobbing and pleading. 2 years later, I'm better off without anything that disrupts my peace. Story 20. When they become increasingly annoyed with you over every little thing, when they prefer to be away from you, when they no longer want affection and make you sit on a separate couch while watching TV, when they subtly insult you every time you speak, and when they make jokes about you at every opportunity that genuinely hurt your feelings. Story 21. When you are walking on eggshells around someone, I prefer to be blunt and direct about issues. If a person gets easily offended, then it won't work. Story 22. Lack of communication leads to shallow or non-existent conversations. Both partners stop sharing their thoughts, feelings, or experiences. Additionally, emotional distance occurs when one or both partners cease to show interest in each other's emotional needs or struggles. Story 23. Lack of communication creates cold distancing that neither party acknowledges or corrects. Daydreaming about another person often indicates unhappiness, especially when the other person is aware of it but refuses to accommodate. In a past relationship, I sensed that a breakup was imminent. My partner had a personality disorder known as borderline personality disorder, which I only learned about after we moved in together. She often shifted between being warm and cold, typical of this disorder. Our conflicts, though infrequent, were intense, and it felt like we inevitably headed toward a significant fight after a few minor disagreements. At times, I could intuitively sense that things were about to erupt. When we weren't fighting, she was incredibly sweet, loving, and affectionate. We would walk our dog in our downtown neighborhood, holding hands and feeling like everything was perfect. She would do things to make it seem like our happiness would last forever, but then the inevitable fights would surface. The turning point for me occurred during a rough period when I noticed her growing emotionally distant. I invited her to a movie just 2 blocks away, and although she agreed, she seemed cold and disconnected, as if she wasn't truly present. The next day, while walking with her, I instinctively reached for her hand, as I had done countless times before, but she appeared surprised and reluctant to hold it. In that moment, I realized it was really over. After a long, bleak evening together in the same home, she initiated the big fight I had been anticipating and isolated herself on the couch. The conflict escalated to the point where I packed a suitcase with enough clothes for a week and left, retrieving the rest of my belongings about a month and a half later, which were waiting for me in the lobby. We never saw each other again, despite having spent multiple years together as adults in our early 30s. The idea that someone I loved and lived with could become so emotionally cold was terrifying. At one time, I believed we would never part. I felt loved and deeply connected to her, yet our relationship disintegrated rapidly. In hindsight, it was a blessing since our relationship was constantly impacted by her mood changes and other issues we were each facing. For someone you invested years in to dissolve so suddenly and then vanish completely, that is a major warning sign and something that, if not observed, could lead to far worse consequences in the future. Story 24. He started pushing me to change everything about myself. My makeup, my hair, my clothes, my body, the way I took photos, and the way I decorated. Story 25. There were signs for me. A lack of intimacy, taking hours to respond to texts, and feeling like I was annoying him with everything I said or did. I knew these were signs, but I think I chose to ignore them in the hope that things would improve. Never again. Story 26. I have a strong feeling that something is irreparable. Once that feeling arises, nothing can eliminate it, and I know the relationship is doomed. Story 27. For me, a sign that it really wasn't going to last much longer was when she became defensive about everything. Small things turned into big arguments. Story 28. Your partner starts spending time with new friends, not inviting you, and scheduling vacations with them. Story 29. Once they start projecting onto you by accusing you of cheating or suggesting you have someone else. When they become overly defensive if you ask them about infidelity. When they avoid using their phone around you. When they claim to be going out with their coworkers every week at night. When you are too expensive for them. When they hide their phone under their pillow. When they display disrespect in front of friends and family. When they give you flowers unexpectedly as a guilt gift. When their friends ask you what you would do if they cheated on you. When they request a break and just want to be friends with benefits. When they no longer say goodnight. When they stop showing interest in how your day went. When arguments become monotonous and always seem to fall back on you. When you feel overly anxious and overwhelmed by their presence. Story 30. When communication drops, there is more distance between us, and the little things that used to matter no longer do. Story 31. When he is not curious about everything you do, it feels more like he is waiting for the relationship to fall apart. Story 32. When they no longer express emotions in your messages. When they take longer to respond, ranging from hours to days or even weeks. When they change from saying good morning to just morning or hey. When they no longer initiate conversations. When they no longer show interest in you or your day. When they no longer share pictures or updates about what they have been doing that day. Story 33. When they don't give you gifts for Christmas or your birthday anymore. They never take you on dates either, but when you suggest it, the whole thing feels forced. Story 34. They stop holding your hand unless a man is present. They keep a distance while walking with you. They no longer open doors for you but will do so for others. They mention that they are only comfortable being masculine around friends they are attracted to, yet they wear feminine underwear around you as a joke. They block you on social media to maintain friendships with others and lie about it, showing disregard for their marriage. Story 35. When we were both making plans for the weekend without including each other, we only made a token inquiry about whether the other person wanted to join. Story 36. I watched coworkers connect and get married. They never left work. It always followed them home and greeted them each morning. Sure enough, they separated after 2 years. Story 37. Distance. Things were going well, then, out of nowhere, texts and calls became more infrequent. Flaking started happening. There was less intimacy. Story 38. When they show me they don't care without telling me, it affects friendships. My marriage, however, is solid. We communicate and are committed and loving to one another. It's not always easy. We face illnesses, surgeries, and loss, yet we stick together. If you evaluate your marriage as you do your casual friendships, you won't stay married. Learn to communicate and show care for one another, even during stressful times. Story 39. I think it's over when you would rather not see them as much as they want to see you, even if it's possible. It's not just about needing space. It's more about choosing not to see them or for them not to see you for whatever reason they can find. I believe those are signs that it is ending soon. Story 40. It all depends on the effort put in, not just by me but also by my husband. It can take a few days to months. He knows me well. When we are busy and stressed, it takes longer. But if everything is going well, it doesn't take long. It may sound strange, but the weather can have a significant impact. Being stuck together in the heat or the cold of winter can be challenging. In summer, when you can't go out, or in winter, when you don't get daylight after work, it is the hardest. If I take time to do things on my own and he shows interest, it starts a conversation. However, if I feel like I'm just going through the motions, I become frustrated, and so does he. We then need to reset, which could be a holiday, lunch, or dinner. I need to stay busy. Sitting around being bored is not good for me because I don't sleep more than 3 or 4 hours and have too much time to dwell on things that annoy me. Story 41. When you are excluded from making decisions that will affect you both. When they make you face difficult situations alone, such as funerals or illnesses, and then urge you to grieve or recover quickly, they show a lack of care and compassion. If you have to be alone in a partnership, it may be time to reevaluate the situation and consider being truly alone. Story 42. In a heterosexual romantic relationship, the man starts wearing a new kind of underwear. He is either already cheating or planning to move on soon. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.